Good morning, everyone. All right. So today we're going to talk about the connected office, something we've been working really hard on with many of you for a long time. And it's going to be an exciting opportunity to get your feedback in this manner. But before I do that, I just want to commend you all for just blowing up the hashtag yesterday. Starting with the inception selfie, and if you didn't catch it, it's not too late to take a look. And I am at Brent Grinna on Twitter, which I should have mentioned yesterday, but I wanted to go back and just do a couple of highlights from the first day, some of the tweets that really stood out for me. One, just Judy and Ray from BU, really terrific work leading the charge on the inception selfie. Mike O'Neill, 76, said, "Josh Newton just completely melted my face." Amazing stuff, and wish more development offices had the courage to do what he's done. How about Josh Newton, huh? And UConn, good stuff. We didn't promise face melting in the marketing for this conference, but we'll be sure to mention that next year. And there were a lot of great tweets, but then there were actually some pretty sad tweets as well, and I don't want to shy away from the sadness that this conference may evoke for some people. In fact, our friend Joe from the University of Buffalo wrote, "When half your timeline is talking about hashtag Raise 2017, and you're back in the office, he's feeling like Napoleon Dynamite alone on the playground." So I thought we all might take a minute this morning. Pull out your phones if you happen to be on Twitter. It's at Joseph DID. Whatever, maybe it's a GIF, maybe it's a nice note, maybe it's an emoji, but would everybody please tweet at Joseph and let him know that we miss him and we want to see him at hashtag Raise 2018? At least a few of you got to do that, because I mean, this guy, poor Joseph, he's in Buffalo. Anyway, so here we are. Okay, so before we kick off, has anybody here seen Friends from College on Netflix? Raise them high. Okay, good. For those of you who haven't, maybe this will inspire you. We just want to start with a short clip from Friends from College.
So, did you all go to school in Boston?
Yes, we did.
Oh, well, we did as well. Anka and I plan a number of events for the Harvard Alumni Association in the area.
We're going to go dance and leave this.
Oh, yeah, a pleasure to meet you guys. Howdy. Right on. See you, mate.
You know what might be up your alley? Our upcoming jazz brunch with the Harvard Black Alumni Society.
Jazz
Brunch.
Yeah, Max, here loves jazz. Tell him no one likes jazz.
There you go. It's a group of college friends running around, and I thought that was an interesting clip, because what ends up happening with the rest of the clip is essentially the table clears, and the only people left are the Harvard Alumni Association club leaders wondering why nobody wants to go to their jazz brunch. And I think it is reflective of how when you're marketing to your alumni, when you're marketing to your alums in a way that doesn't align with their interests, you're going to be left with an empty table, and I'm sure some of you can empathize with that. But our hope as we advance our work together, and as I share some of what's coming, is that we can minimize the number of times that we're inviting people to jazz brunches who don't like jazz or brunch. So at EverTrue, our mission is to build relationships in pursuit of a better world. We've got to build relationships as a team to be inspired to support your work. We need to help you all build relationships with each other, to learn. And most important, we need to help you build relationships with your donors and constituents across the giving pyramid, so that you can move the needle on financial aid letters and on facilities projects and on whatever the new initiative might be that your institution is prioritizing. And so we've been working really hard at that. And the way that I want to spend the time this morning is to give you a view into sort of what we've done over the last 12 months and then what's coming. And I want to start just by saying the reason that I like Raise and the way that we set it up is because yesterday, sort of what we did yesterday, bringing in speakers like David Cancel from Drift, bringing in Diane and Dave, bringing in the folks from Drizzly and Reebok and so forth, we spend most of our time with people like that trying to learn, because we don't necessarily at EverTrue know, we're not necessarily building the most cutting edge thing in sales and marketing. But if we can align ourselves with people who are, and then learn how what they're doing can be applied to your work, we don't expect David Cancel will ever know very much about planned giving or online giving or reunion help desks. We don't expect he's going to know that stuff. But if we can learn a lot about that stuff with you and then start bridging the gaps, that's where we think we can really accelerate our efforts. And so much of what we've done over the last 12 months and what's coming over the next 12 months has really come from us listening to you and trying to understand your problems, but then trying to learn from the best minds in the technology world so that we can apply their work to the advancement space. And so I'm just going to start with a little bit of a recap. We are, over the last 12 months, have sort of shifted the way that we've positioned and packaged our products. We started in a very specific way. We then started doing some more general work. And for those of you who've been with us for a long time, where's Maria Taylor? Is Maria here? Maria's a 3-time EverTrue customer. She's been with us for over 6 years. And so she's sort of seen this whole evolution. And candidly, at the beginning, we didn't know enough about advancement to even package and position what we did well enough for it really to make sense. But we feel like we're getting to that point. And so we've got the EverTrue platform, which has really become the foundation of everything that we do. That is the intersection of data from your traditional database systems and insights that we can find in other parts of the world, whether that's social or other marketing and sales platforms, bringing that together and really trying to bring search segmentation to your fingertips. We've got an engagement side of what we're doing, a raising side of what we're doing, and a measurement layer that we'll be continuing to invest in. On the engagement side, our first product was really this idea. When we started the company, schools were still making these print alumni directories and trying to sell them for like $80 to people. And there was something special about it and something nostalgic, but it was clear that that information wasn't being actually put at the fingertips of the constituents in a really useful way. And so our first product was an alumni directory product that we integrated with LinkedIn. It was mobile first, and it really was designed to just take that old print directory and put it at your fingertips, and that's how many of you got to know us. From there, we built out this social engagement layer, starting with Facebook, because we realized, as we heard from Rodney and Matt from Colgate yesterday, that there was just so much engagement shifting to this digital sphere that was helping all these for-profit brands understand their hotel customers better and understand, their fans at the Red Sox better, but it wasn't necessarily helping you all understand your constituents better. And so that was the second part of our journey. We're going to be talking a lot about events and email today, which you've probably not heard us talk about before, and so I'm really excited to get your feedback on how we're approaching that. On the fundraising side, we have had a lot of success with relationship management, taking the best of what we can get in your system, the best of what we can find elsewhere, and really putting that at the fingertips of your frontline fundraisers. And Ray Joyce from BU is here, and he'll be sharing his journey as sort of a one-man show at the theology school over at BU. But the way that he was just describing at breakfast, that having access to that quality information in a simple interface has allowed him to really accelerate his efforts and support relationship building with his constituents is something we're going to continue to double down on. Over the last 12 months, we did a bunch of work in the online giving space, really trying to do our best to make it as simple as possible to give, as quickly as possible, to design a giving experience for the end consumer that would rival what Drizzly or Reebok or any of those companies are delivering for their consumer, because their consumers are your consumers, and if we're not competitive with the experiences that your constituents are receiving in other parts of their lives, we're going to lose them. And so what can we do to reduce friction from an online giving perspective? And one of the areas that is very near and dear to my heart is volunteer management. The same way that we've empowered gift officers to be more efficient and effective, having the information they need at their fingertips, why can't volunteers have the same thing? Too many schools, in fact, we recently did a survey, over 75% of schools said spreadsheets are the number one way that they equip their volunteers with information. It's 2017, and we can order LaCroix on our phone right now, but if I want to fundraise for my school, I got to get a spreadsheet of outdated information. not acceptable anymore, we're going to change it. And then across the board, just trying to invest in measurement. So we're going to do a quick look back at the components of this work that have shifted, and then an exciting look forward. So I want to start with introducing the web version of our alumni directory product. We have been a mobile-first company from day one, but we'd heard a lot of feedback that even though many institutions had traditional web directories, they weren't integrated with platforms like LinkedIn, or they were opt-in, and it was really hard to get a significant number of people to opt in. And so we've got a great opt-out web directory that goes very well with the mobile experiences that we've shipped to date. So we've got mobile for iOS and Android. We've now got the web experience. On the online giving side, we'd done some really good initial work to make the giving experience easier, but there was some receding and stewardship components that were leaving or had left some things to be desired. And so we worked closely getting feedback from the folks at UVA and Williams and elsewhere to really create a quality, customizable experience so that as a donor, you not only are able to give quickly, but you're instantly going to be receiving that letter of appreciation and so forth. From a volunteer management perspective, this has been a very significant initiative for us, and the idea is really it should be dead simple to identify volunteers in locations with different interests. It should be easy to recruit those volunteers. It should be easy to make assignments for those volunteers, and it should be easy for the volunteers to know how they're doing, and it should be easy for you all to do that without spreadsheets. And so this has been a big area of focus for our team, and we'll be talking more about it in one of the breakout sessions today. But this can work for a young alumni group, but it also can be used to equip trustees with better information. Just because they're trustees doesn't mean they like spreadsheets and binders, you know, and so there's really an opportunity to create segments and pools that align top to bottom of the giving pyramid. As an end user, as a volunteer, we've designed this in a way that is mobily responsive. We're working really hard on an iOS and Android version as well, and really our hope is that that volunteers have everything they need at their fingertips, and that there are just no excuses for them to not do the work. And so that you all can spend your time actually helping them pursue the goals rather than pulling lists when they say, could I get an updated spreadsheet because I'm not sure who's given yet and I don't want to send them another email if they've already made their gift. And so this is a big step forward that we're really excited about. Reporting is huge. As a volunteer, how am I doing? Am I doing a good job or not? Is my class doing a good job or not? How are we progressing on our goal? A lot of that work, again, it's manual today. We're sitting on the data that should allow us to expose that to people in a very intuitive fashion. So whether I'm helping lead my class effort or I'm just an individual volunteer doing my work, I should know how I'm doing at all times. As we kind of move up the giving pyramid, we realized that on one hand, you've invested so much time into your database systems, and we work so hard to get our frontline folks to do contact reports in a timely manner. But after talking to so many gift officers, we heard that in many cases they felt like they did all this work, they worked so hard, they had the conversation, they did the contact report, and then it just went into this black hole. And it was really hard to then go back and get at that information unless you pulled up a donor's profile and just scrolled or clicked through every individual contact report. We've worked with institutions now where we found that they have tens, or in some cases even hundreds of thousands of historical contact reports over a decade or more. And in many instances, we've found examples where 5 years ago, a prospect said to a gift officer, if you're ever doing anything around sustainability, let me know. And at the time, we weren't doing anything around sustainability. So we filed that as a contact report, and it's sitting in there. But fast forward today, and places like BU are investing in sustainability right now. And we've created this interface that allows them to essentially Google every contact report that's ever been filed by anybody at the institution. And so we can now go and say, okay, if we're working on sustainability, has anybody ever said that word before? What about solar? What about wind energy? What about faculty members' names who've worked around sustainability? How do we really activate all of that data that we're sitting on, which has implications at the top of the giving pyramid? I mean, think about all the professorships where somebody has literally told a gift officer in the past, if you ever do anything for Professor Riopel, let me know. But if that's just locked away in a contact report that nobody can get to without a database guru doing some sort of SQL query, you're probably not going to go back to that donor to let them know when you're doing something. And so really just trying to empower you all as normal end users to be able to get at the information that you've worked so hard to capture, implications at the top of the giving pyramid, implications for building out advisory boards, but also implications for annual giving segmentation as well. And so this is something that we're really excited about. As we've continued to invest in the frontline experience, it became clear to us that we were really missing out on relationships as a first-class attribute in our software. We kind of ignored it. You know, we had to get the first version out there and iterate, but we recently launched the ability to really provide rich relationship data so that on every donor profile in our system, if you want to understand who their spouse is, who their children is, other family members. This is something that we know we've needed to do we've known we've needed to do it for a while, and we're very grateful for some of the feedback that we received from many of you on how to design this. So stay tuned for more on that front. We've done a lot of work around trip planning and collaboration, where instead of a development assistant and a gift officer and people sending spreadsheets back and forth, we've now created the ability, almost like TripIt, for trip planning for gift officers, where you can really bring together so much of that workflow so that I've got my itinerary right here in my application on my mobile phone. I don't need to have a separate Word doc or to copy and paste things from my Outlook calendar to be able to tell my boss where I'm going. And we've worked really close with frontline folks who've just talked us through how many manual steps went into picking where we're going. Let's say it's Texas, identifying the prospects that we want to see when we're there, doing the outreach, getting the confirmations, adding that to a calendar, adding it to a trip, going and seeing those people, and then doing your contact reports right from your phone so that you don't have to worry about transcribing notes back and forth. And so this has been a huge amount of work, and it's really exciting both on web and on mobile. Even the ability that if you want to send an email to your team, hey, I've got an upcoming trip, here's who I'm going, all of that integrated in one place. We've worked closely with folks at the University of Rochester and elsewhere to really improve the way that we're supporting contact reports. Josh mentions it yesterday, but we're moving into a phase where every gift officer at UConn will be equipped with the ability on iOS or Android to do contact reports in a format that is simple but also aligns with their underlying, in their case, Blackbaud system, or at Rochester, their underlying advanced system. And so we've worked pretty hard on that as well. And then we'd heard a lot of demand for this measurement idea and really being able to more simply understand, where are my gift officers? How many visits are they having? What's the distribution of prospects by gift officer? How many trips are they going on? And just having all of that at your fingertips, understanding our proposals by stage, just having that transparent both to management but also to the end user so that they can have a clear view into the way that they're doing. The same way Janet from Spotted was talking about how metrics driven they're becoming in their sales process. How do we, but they're only able to be metrics driven if they have a clear view of metrics. And we'd heard from a lot of folks that it was hard to get at that information, or maybe periodically it'd be emailed out. And so this has been a big area of focus as well. We call this My Team. And so how are we doing? It's a lot in 12 months. And all of it was driven by feedback from you and then trying to learn from the commercial world and apply the best of what they're doing to this work. And so we receive a fair amount of feedback, but this is one that really stood out to me. Anna's here from University of Rochester, and she wrote, as a hustling major gift officer, I love your product so damn much. EverTrue is a dream. I've always asked, why can't this be easier when it comes to data management and prospect management? You delivered. Also, your team has been extremely helpful. So she touched on a lot there, and very grateful for the feedback. But I wanted to take a minute because as we make more progress, and even last night and this morning, I've received such positive feedback from many of you. But this is the kind of stuff that really gets us fired up. When you guys send us notes like this, I send it to the whole team. Everybody, high fives and so forth. But I just want to take a minute to recognize a couple of people and really recognize the EverTrue engineering and product team, because they're the ones behind the scenes who are doing the work, and I think many of you have had the opportunity to interact with them. And I wanted to recognize one person. Is PJ Gray here? Everybody look back at PJ. Right there, wave it, wave PJ. So I met, we started EverTrue, really got going in 2011, and in the early days we were just all over the place, just trying to find anybody who would listen to us. We were going to bars and meetups, just trying to sell the dream. And we met PJ at one of those meetups. It was an iOS developers meetup. And PJ had worked at a company called Avid Technologies for 12 or 14 years. I forget how long it was. But for some reason, he liked what we were up to. And he jumped on board EverTrue 6 years ago. So any of you that have used anything mobile from EverTrue, whether it's an app for the alumni community, whether it's our mobile application for gift officers, PJ has built pretty much every line of that code, and I don't know if he's ever been recognized that. So I'd ask you all in joining me in giving him a round of applause. Cool. So now I want to take some time to talk about where we go from here. I heard the expression "think outside the box" yesterday a lot, which was good. I also heard a lot of you came up to me and said, "Hey, this has been really validating." What I heard yesterday, it made me gain more confidence in what I was sort of thinking might be the right approach or a new approach. And so that's really exciting for us. And just a quick look back over the timeline. Much of what we're trying to do at EverTrue is just not build things. If we can avoid building something ourselves because somebody else has already done it better, awesome. We'll spend our time bringing the best of what other people have done and then applying it to your world. So that started with LinkedIn and Google in our early days, Facebook, Zillow, insights from the Census Bureau, Stripe was our payments integration. With this whole gift officer trip planning functionality, it's been Google Places and Outlook Calendar, Waze for driving directions. We're just trying to find the best that's already out there. And so what I want to talk about today is sort of what's next. And I want to do it, again, leaning on an example from the commercial world. So how many of you maybe still have a punch card, like on the left in your wallet? Yeah, still got a few of those. How many of you also are using the Starbucks application? Raise them high. How many used it this morning? This is really a reflection of how the loyalty industry is changing. Okay, we still got some punch cards hanging around, but more and more, the entire loyalty experience is shifting to mobile and digital platforms. And recently in our office, this is a map view of the EverTrue office, and we're down in the Seaport. There's been a tremendous amount of construction. It's been like Sim City down there the last few years. And what's happened is that like 30 coffee shops have opened within a half-mile radius of our office. And I've been a long-time Starbucks customer, and as you can imagine, I love adopting apps early, so I've been using their app. But with all this competition in the market, my loyalty to Starbucks has been lapsing a little bit. I've been going other places. And in fact, Starbucks tracks every single interaction that I have with them, every coffee, every nitro cold brew. It is so expensive. I can't believe I buy it, but I can't not. It's so good. But over the recent months, they noticed that I wasn't as loyal, I wasn't as engaged with their brand, and I started lapsing. Sound familiar? But then they sent me an email about work that they were doing to invest in sustainable farming. And that's something that really connected with me. I care a lot about that, and I think as a big company, they're fighting hard to maintain that sort of brand identity. And so I opened that email. The subject line caught my attention, and I read through it. And then later that day, I got an ad from Starbucks about the work that they were doing in sustainability, and it popped right up on my Facebook feed, so I threw it a like. And then I got 50 bonus stars. And the bonus stars were linked to the purchase of one of the coffees from one of the sustainable farms that they're working with. Okay. Then I went and got a coffee. And I was back. Starbucks is trying to engage me. They're trying to sell stuff to me. They're trying to measure that, and they're trying to repeat it for 50 years of my life. And that's the exact same thing you guys are trying to do. I talked to my brother, and he is a very loyal Domino's customer. And I don't know if you guys have followed what Domino's has done with their Anywhere program. Any Domino's customers willing to admit it? Oh yeah, literally the whole EverTrue team just raised their hand. That was awesome. So you can now order via Alexa, via Google Home, via Facebook Messenger. If you tweet a piece of pizza at Domino's, they will send you a delivery order. And I asked my brother, what do you love most about the app? And he wrote back instantly how quickly I can get from launching the app to being able to track my pizza. Instant gratification. Has anybody else had that experience? Brands like Dunkin' Donuts are doing surveys around things like National Donut Day. Has anybody seen a survey like this on Twitter? They're saying, what's your favorite donut? Strawberry frosted, vanilla cake batter, glazed, or jelly? And in this case, thousands of people are voting on that. But they're not doing that because it's fun or because it's just National Donut Day. When you clicked glazed, they then mapped that back to your profile in their loyalty app, and the odds that you get presented a deal for a glazed donut go way up from that point forward. These are my kids. They're almost 4 and almost 2. And in a recent experience of just how digital the world is becoming, including the world of education, we had a big shift in our life where instead of getting this at the end of the day from our daycare, when they ate, when they slept, anybody else? This look familiar, right? Our daycare provider introduced a mobile engagement and loyalty experience for parents. And I now get push notifications throughout the day including every time my kid's diaper is changed. TMI? Maybe. But I talked to the president of Bright Horizons, and he said introducing this is the most profound thing they've ever done from a consumer experience perspective. That parents have been raving about it. His only regret is that they did it 5 years too late. And Bright Horizons is in the same business as you all are. And he feels like they're way behind. But this is the level that they're operating at. So these are examples from the commercial world that are really just changing every part of our life. And next year we'll have some new ones, and it's fun because we just get to show you all what we all know we're doing anyway. But then the question is, what does this mean for advancement? And so over the last year, I've spent a bunch of time personally trying to reach out to some of the people who I think are at the cutting edge of trying to bring this kind of loyalty and engagement tracking to the higher ed advancement world, right? If Starbucks can do it in Dunkin' and Domino's, what about Stanford and Williams and Brown and all of your institutions? And so I went out to Stanford and I spent a bunch of time with their team. They've got an alumni association that has 120 employees. Not bad, right? And I met a guy there named Jeremy Ware who used to work at Netflix prior to joining the Stanford Alumni Association. How many of you have former Netflix employees on your team? And Jeremy's amazing, and he shared with me how they track loyalty at Stanford. And this is his spreadsheet. Every single tailgate, every single event, every volunteer code, it's all in the system, and he's got this amazing spreadsheet that helps them pursue their goal of engaging 100,000 people per year as the Stanford Alumni Association. This is an actual Excel formula from that spreadsheet. How do you feel when you see Excel formulas like that? This is kind of how I feel. So I had to go somewhere else besides Stanford. I was like, all right, let's see who else is working on this. And I learned that the folks at Williams had a data analyst who was a math major who was doing all kinds of plotting with similarly complicated Excel formulas, and they were trying to track some key metrics around volunteerism, giving, event attendance, some digital behaviors as well early on. And so we spent a bunch of time learning from them, but I found yet another math major business analyst, and so that probably wasn't going to be the answer for everybody. I spent time with the analytics team at the University of Washington. It's like a bunch of former Microsoft employees out there, and so they've got this amazing pivot table Excel thing for their engagement scoring. We learned at Case District 1 what Dartmouth, Tufts, and some other institutions were doing, and centering it around this going, giving, and volunteering, helping. And so we did see this theme continue to emerge of going, giving, doing, helping. We learned from Tufts something very similar, go, give, help. And they had a big system in place that they were trying to get at this information. But it was everywhere we looked. It was manual. It was very time intensive. And even if we were able to get the data in a unified place using crazy Excel formulas, it was hard to then get it down to the hands of a gift officer or an annual fund professional who could really activate the information in pursuit of their goals. So we figured we'd turn to Case for guidance. This is something that they spend a lot of time thinking about, and so we've gone to a bunch of conferences, and what we heard from Case is that they also were settling on this recommendation of how to track engagement, give, help, and go, the key metrics. How many of you are familiar with some of this work or these sorts of models? Right. And so we looked at that and we're like, well, that seems like a really good start, but what about all this other stuff? What about all the stuff that Starbucks and Dunkin' and these other companies are doing? And we read this white paper that Case published that said, while the task force recommends deferring the inclusion of communication engagement until the challenges of tracking that data are addressed. So at a time when our polls on Twitter are getting us more glazed donuts, our email opens with Starbucks are getting us better personalized offers, the industry association is recommending that we ignore all of that in the world of advancement until the challenges are addressed. So we're here to address those challenges. We started by just thinking about the work that we had already done. Give, help, go. Great, that's in your system. But what about all this interaction that we have already worked with you to start tracking? And we started working with folks like Mike's team at Williams and just starting to categorize all of these different social channels where digital engagement was occurring that let us know who cares about us and a little bit more about what they care about. And we worked with Williams to analyze 20,000 posts on those different Facebook pages starting in 2009. We found 250,000 reactions by their constituents. And Williams is not a big place. They're very engaged, but it's only 25,000 or so constituents, 9,000 of whom have taken digital activity. 20% of those individuals, when we compared their engagement to all of those give, help, and go traditional metrics, 20% had not engaged with Williams in any other way except for, in that case, Facebook. And they were 2 times more likely to be donors to the institution. And they did all of that for a budget of less than $1,000. So 9,000 people engaged 250,000 times for less than $1,000. And while we were excited about that, because it made us feel like we could take the Case Foundation, add this important big piece from Facebook, but there's so much more that has to be added. What about the event that was posted on Williams' page about first-generation college students? They're having an event in New York. What about the people who that? What about the people who are going to events via Eventbrite that the Williams College Museum of Art is hosting? They're not being tracked today. What about the 14,000 people that follow Williams on Twitter? Is that engagement any less valuable than the people who are liking them on Facebook? What about the thousands of people that are engaging with Williams on Instagram? Why wouldn't we want to count that too? What about when Williams posts something on LinkedIn about launching their Entrepreneur in Residence program, and when somebody like Dave Lerner says, "Finally, how can I help?" Shouldn't that count as engagement too? Dave's invested in over 70 companies in New York. Very active angel investor. When a guy like that publicly comments on your LinkedIn page that they want to help with the new program you just kicked off, shouldn't we track that too? What about the emails that are being sent to Williams grads the same way that Starbucks is sending me an email about sustainability? If the people tend to open the emails about athletics, but not the emails about the jazz brunches, how do we start changing our messaging over time? But as of right now, the industry's position is we recommend deferring inclusion of all of that stuff until the challenges are addressed. So I'd like to introduce EverTrue's Engagement Cloud. Our vision is to connect the fundamental data you have in your system around giving, around volunteerism, around event attendance with this digital world that is exploding, as we heard yesterday. We're going to start with platforms like Facebook and continue to build our efforts, but we're also going to find best-in-class email systems that allow you to do the kind of personalization that Starbucks is doing. We're going to deepen our work with LinkedIn, with platforms like Instagram and Twitter, and we are going to do all of that in a way that marries those insights with your traditional systems. Over time, every one of you will have a profile for every one of your constituents that gives you a very clear view of how I've engaged or how your constituents have engaged. Every event that they commit to attending, every comment on every Facebook post, every gift that they make, it should be all as easy for you to see as your Facebook feed. We will crunch all of that data so that over time we can tag your constituents so that someday if you want a list of people who are interested in entrepreneurship or sustainability, you will have that information at your fingertips. And we will work all of that into a dynamic engagement score, building on Case's principles, but not accepting that we should defer inclusion of these important components any longer. With that will come, we think, the first dynamic, comprehensive dashboard that really helps you understand engagement by year, by channel. How are we doing on giving? How are we doing on volunteerism? How are we doing on event attendance? And how are we doing on our digital connectivity as well? And within any of those components, you should have transparent views into your work by channel. If we can get this right in partnership with all of you, we think the implications across the giving pyramid are profound. The same way that Starbucks is able to better message us, engage us, sell us, measure it, and repeat, we should be able to recruit volunteers with far greater precision. We should be able to improve our annual giving messaging by understanding what donor interests are. We should be able to support leadership giving, middle of the pyramid identification by being able to look at some common metrics around wealth or industries, companies, but also engagement. We should be able to develop interest-based prospect pools. Whether it's for a professor or a new program, it should be very easy to understand exactly which list you should be targeting. We should be able to further streamline gift officer trip planning by ensuring that in addition to anchor visits, they're also being recommended the best filler visits nearby. We should support portfolio management because as a gift officer, I want to know if my prospect opens that email or replies. I want to know if they respond to that Twitter poll. I want to know if they're following us on Instagram because I want to be able to understand what makes my prospects tick. And from a stewardship perspective, the people who've already supported us, we should be able to understand how they're engaging with us and when there are opportunities to re-engage them for the next gift. And I'm going to start today by announcing and introducing our integration with Facebook events. Okay. 550 million people use Facebook events every month, including many of your constituents. As we learned yesterday, in spite of the potential around Facebook events and what we can accomplish in 25 seconds with $25, most schools haven't embraced this as an event distribution platform yet. While brands are using it to target your alumni, you're not using it to target your alumni. But that's starting to change. As I shared yesterday, this is Boston University's Facebook event platform on their alumni page. And we've been working really hard on completing this integration. And it's been like literally including over the night and early this morning. But we are at the point where, for the first time, we're funneling data from this platform, people who are saying that they're going to your events or interested in your events. We think that counts as engagement, but it's got to be mapped back to your underlying donor profiles. And so, as it relates to Boston University, over the last 60 days, we've gone back and scanned all of the people who've said that they're interested or going to their events. And we found over 1,400 alumni who've engaged with them on Facebook events that up until now have never been tracked. Who's excited about that idea? I'm also excited to announce our integration with Eventbrite. How many of you have used Eventbrite? How many of you used it for your school events, for your alumni events? Simple planning, intuitive ticketing and on-site registration experiences, and the ability to grow and market your event, in part through integrations platforms like Eventbrite have done with Facebook. The check-in experience is amazing. It's so easy to use on iOS, on Android, on the web. They have built-in analytics so that if somebody says, how are we doing on that event, you don't have to go run a custom report. They're doing it extremely well for millions of events. Where EverTrue is coming in is we're going to take data from those events and try to bring context to it for your work as an advancement professional. We're categorizing every event that you're marketing on Facebook events or via Eventbrite, and we're then looking at the engagement data, people who said that they're interested, people who said that they're going, people who actually get a ticket, mapping all of that back into our engagement score, and then marrying it with your donor information. Which means that next time somebody says, how's that event list coming? You can go into our platform, have it all there, including the ability to sort by lifetime giving, the ability to sort by who's assigned, all of that information at your fingertips. And then, if I'm a gift officer and somebody in my portfolio says that they're going to that event on Facebook, or says that they're buying or buys a ticket on Eventbrite, you're getting an alert on your phone that tells you every time that happens. Who wants that? We believe that there is an enormous untapped opportunity to leverage Facebook for event marketing, platforms like Eventbrite for event management, and EverTrue will pull all of that together to provide insights for that specific event, but also as part of that individual donor's lifetime journey with your institution. So, as I shared, we've now looked at 35 events that BU has hosted just over the last 60 days, and we've measured over 1,400 interactions. We need a little bit more time, but one of the benefits of the approach that we're taking is that we will not only start this going forward, but we can go back and look at all of the historical interactions that have happened, all of those events that maybe somebody in your communications team happened to throw up onto Facebook and people did engage with that information. We can start pulling that historically as well to provide some additional value. All of that is funneling into EverTrue's engagement cloud. And I'm also excited to announce, and we'll talk more about it in the next panel, that coming this fall, we're going to be doing the exact same thing with a leading email marketing platform called Emma. One of the representatives, Becca from Emma, will be joining us in the next panel. But you'll hear from our friend Valerie at the University of Virginia what her before and after experience has been. I'm not an an Emma salesperson. I'm not an Eventbrite salesperson. I'm not a Facebook salesperson. But what we want to do is find out where your constituents are, find out where there's an opportunity to meet them, and then bring all of that together, and email marketing will be a huge component of that as well. Why? Because all Emma does is amazing email marketing. Unlike many of the vendors that serve this sector, where they've been forced to do all of these things in an okay fashion, Eventbrite, all they do is events, global music festivals, as complex as it can be. I'm confident they can handle your reunion too. And Emma, all they do is focus on user experience. It was like what Justin said from Drizzly. What do you want people to think about when they experience your brand? They want you, he's just said, wow. I want people to feel wow. And I think you'll see why Valerie feels a wow around Emma and Eventbrite and Facebook events as well. This is our start. We are not going to accept that we defer inclusion of these kinds of engagement signals until the challenges are addressed. We'd rather just work with you to address the challenges right now. Because every day that we wait is a missed opportunity to engage someone, a missed opportunity to build your prospect pipeline. And over time, this connect piece, I think, will have the most logos. It will become the most important part of this slide, but we're just getting started. 15 years ago, Domino's didn't do any business online. Most recently, they published that 60% of their orders are now coming via digital channels. That is going to happen in this industry. It's inevitable. Where we need your help is identifying the boxes that belong in the right. What are the solutions that you think are working for you, where you're engaging people, and there's important digital signals that need to be included in this engagement cloud. For example, we've been joined by JD Beebe from ThankView. He's the founder and CEO of a company called ThankView, fellow entrepreneur in the space. And ThankView is doing a really nice job helping provide a great stewardship experience through video and through mobile. And a lot of the themes we heard about yesterday, BU and some of our other friends have worked with ThankView. And if people are engaging with ThankView, and if they're opening those videos, and if they're watching those videos, and if JD's platform knows that, let's bring it in so that we know who's engaging, who saw that student's message. And I'm optimistic that over time, we're going to have many channels like that. If some of you come up to me and say, guess what, we love the Drift presentation so much, we love the idea of somebody having a message experience with a real person instead of navigating a planned giving website about legal jargon about how to, give your estate away, and you want to integrate with Drift to get people answers quicker, then we'll integrate with Drift. And then we can start to see who are the donors that are opening our emails, engaging with us on social, messaging us on Drift, watching our videos on ThankView. This is the opportunity, and we're thrilled to be pursuing it. And and what I would say is that the old way, in many cases, is the current way, where engagement, annual giving, research, major giving, insights aren't being shared, things are too manual, but we're so optimistic that the new way is to have a marketer on one side of the office help a gift officer on the other side of the office without even knowing it. The same way that the marketers at Starbucks are helping the retail location on Congress Street without necessarily strategizing around that specific example. And so if this is exciting to you, now for some of you it may scare you, it may be a lot, but as we heard from Diane yesterday, there are some people that when you say to them, hey, what if we tried this? What if we brainstormed? What if we did something new? Their eyes light up. And so if you're feeling like you're on that side of the spectrum right now, we want to help you engage, raise, measure, and repeat. If Starbucks can do it, if Dunkin' can do it, if Domino's can do it, it is so much more important for you all to be doing that. And I'd love to hear from you because we are going to need partners on this journey, and you all are already partners on this journey. But I would really welcome your feedback on the concept. Please shoot me a note, and I'll try to respond as quickly as I can. But in conclusion, this is the EverTrue Engagement Cloud. This is the next first step on our journey, and I just want to thank you all for hearing me out, and I look forward to the next session. Thank you.